The Armada Village Zoning Board of Appeals meeting will come to order. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please call the roll.
All right. Demuth.
Here.
St. John.
Here.
Patterson.
Here.
Oklahoma. Here. Dalkey is here. Okay. Everybody is here. Thank you.
We need approval of the agenda and approval of the previous minutes. Do we have any comments from the board?
Okay, motion to approve the meeting minutes for the ZBA regular meeting of October 21st, 2020.
If I can recommend, Christie, sorry, I can recommend that we get a motion on the agenda just to
Agenda
make sure that
first.
we're not changing anything
Okay, so that's,
first, and then we'll go into the meeting minutes.
let's change that then to motion to approve the meeting minutes for the regular semi-annual ZBA meeting of April 21st, 2022.
Okay, very good. Is there a second?
Do we have?
Mike? Okay, so
It's been moved and seconded.
Yep.
Do we have a approval? What's the board's wishes?
Any comments? No? Then let's see if there's all in favor. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion's passed. Thank you.
And approval of the previous minutes.
And
What's the
so
board's
moved.
wishes?
Once again, so moved.
And is there a second on the minutes?
I'll second.
Okay, so that's Christie and Don. Motion made and seconded. Any discussion?
I said that already.
As presented.
I said that the first time, that's why we're doing it again. Thanks.
Any discussion on the meeting minutes? Okay, no discussion.
Move for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Okay, pass unanimous.
Yes. Yeah, tonight I had this zoning board of appeals handbook printed up through the office there for a kind of a guide. I'm not sure if anybody's had those before. You may have. Just kind of a refresher on what a zoning board of appeals is for, what their authority is, and what they can and cannot do. So that's for your reference and discussion if we want to discuss that tonight. Any comments from the vice chair? Any general discussion about zoning board? I know it's been quite a while. It's been, what, 6 months since we met,
6
October.
months,
I think you said the last time you actually did a ZBA hearing was, what, 3 years ago, and 18?
The last time we
ago?
had an actual appeal was 2018. So I think you guys know that the reason why we do the semi-annual meetings is just so that we recognize each other if we have to get called in, and that you keep your toe dipped in the water of remembering why you're here. I guess a comment that I would make, and Dennis and I were talking about it a little bit before the meeting, is that this is a semi-judicial body, so the decisions made here really trump any other decisions made in the village, and they have the force of law. So it really can trump ordinance, can trump planning, can trump council. Now our job is to follow the zoning ordinance as written, interpret it and follow it. But if we find that there's that our interpretation is different than something in there, then that's where we can make a change. Or if somebody brings an appeal and they can convince us that there's undue harm to them by something that's that's in the zoning ordinance, we can consider that. So the important thing though is you want to take the job seriously. So if an appeal does come, you want to give it some amount of time to compare what the requested action is against the zoning ordinance so that you can make an informed decision when it's time. Comments or thoughts on that? I guess the other thing I would say is we had suggested the possibility of a couple appeals at the last meeting 6 months ago. One was, and not necessarily appeals, one was potentially a variance, but we had a business owner in the village that was considering expanding, and there was an issue with his side lot, square footage and distance. His building would have been closer to the right of way than what the zoning ordinance allows. But we have not heard back from him, so that may now be a moot point. And there was a resident fence issue. Thought that they would come in with an appeal, and they moved the fence to comply with the zoning ordinance. So right now there's nothing that I'm aware of that's on the docket for the foreseeable future. Doesn't mean something couldn't show up tomorrow, but those two issues appear to be at rest now, and with nothing that I can see coming down the pike. So
I don't know how many hearings have you guys had? How many have you been to that you've ruled on?
You guys had at
We had
least
to
two.
plan at least two items though, isn't it?
we had the 3 in October of 2018, and that was
Three?
yeah. There were 3 items
Yeah.
that we did, and you guys were newly minted, and
Yeah.
so we had to do some crash courses to kind of get everybody up to speed
Yeah.
before those. But you did a great job at the reviews.
How about you, Chrissy? Same with you? 2 or 3?
No, I wasn't here back then.
Okay.
Yeah, she's
I was
So you're brand new.
secretary then.
after that, but Chrissy's the chair of the planning commission, so she knows kind of what's going on.
She knows way more than we do.
I know I sat on the township zoning board for a year, and I think we ruled on 2 items. One was a setback on a corner, and I don't remember what the other one was, but then Ray, I work in the building department there, we get an occasional, like somebody wants to build a barn or accessory building in the front yard, it's not allowed. And I remember one in particular, just like 6 months back, longer, about a year ago, they could not build in the back because of wetlands.
No.
So they had a valid concern, a valid argument. And we basically told them, you come up with an argument, zoning board may or may not accept it, there's no guarantee.
Right.
So that's kind of our pat answer to that. But
But it was interesting in that, talking with Dennis about it, he because of the wetlands, that homeowner had no other recourse. There was no other place to put his pole barn, I guess. And so he was able to show there was a hardship to him by either it would have been excessively expensive to try to do something in the wetlands, or he couldn't put up a pole barn like his neighbors, and that ZBA agreed with him that there was was it ZBA or planning?
it was zoning board.
Zoning board, okay, and they agreed that he had a legitimate hardship, and they gave it to him, which,
And the one for Armada Township, that was a side yard, it was a corner lot. They wanted to go into the setback in the corner, and the zoning board questioned the applicant and said, why can't you put it on the other side of the house? Because there was room to do it in the setback, and the person said, well, I want it there. We said, well, that's not really a good reason. And as it happened, that person kind of was upset. I mean, very upset. So you'll see that, and maybe you already have.
yeah. But to your point, they had the ability to do something. And of course, I think you guys know, just because they don't want to do that that's not sufficient reason to get approval of a request for variance, just because they don't want to put it someplace that they would have preferred to put it over here. That's not good enough. And we try now in the application process to indicate to people, I mean, I've written right in there, because we redid that, you might remember, after our October 3 appeals, we then put some time and attention to redoing the appeals application, and we put right in there that burden of proof is on you, Mr. Applicant or Miss Applicant. You have to prove that it's a hardship. And I think that tends to dissuade people because we're supposed to follow the ordinance. And if people don't like the ordinance, we'll come in and petition council or the planning commission to change it, right? But we're not going to necessarily just change it because they don't like it.
Right.
They have to show that, you know, the burden of proof is on them, show that it's a hardship to them. There's no other recourse, or it's financially not viable because of the cost. I mean, I think the Ray Township issue is a good example. Wetland, you can't put it in there, it's gonna sink, it's gonna, and he only had one other place to put it, which is in the area that they.
In the front, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I remember probably 5 years ago, I asked zoning board as inspector, what's your opinion on, somebody had put a kind of archway in the front by the sidewalk, and I said, that's a building, you know, that can't go there. And I said, it was a little bit of a discussion, a little argument, asked the zoning board, what's your opinion? And so somebody will come to the board and ask, what is your interpretation?
Yeah, yeah.
Are we on track, or do you have another interpretation? So they came back saying it was fine with them. It was a difference of opinion. I didn't agree with it, but it doesn't matter. ZBA is the final word.
Yeah.
And what
With-
CBA did was they went back and we looked at all interpretations of the building. It had no doors, had no windows, it wasn't enclosed. So that was why it was just considered
Right.
an outdoor structure.
So we just wanted to get their opinion, and they rendered it, and so that could come up to also.
Yeah.
Not
Well,
necessarily from a inspector, it could be a resident.
Yeah. No, actually, that's a great idea. I mean, I think you can, you know, it'd be great that we had residents or businesses that came in with a question. We don't really have anybody, at least in my experiences, had nobody show up with a question. How do you interpret this? How would you interpret this? Could you look at it and tell me, if I lodged an appeal, how would you generally respond to that? It's a way to do it without paying any money, I guess. But we've not had any of those. We just get an appeal, and then it's either up or down. And it would be, I think that's a good idea for people. If they've got a question, come on in and ask us. And we may not be able to render a decision right at the meeting, but we could look at it. And I think there's wiggle room for you to call another meeting at any time and say, okay, we're going to give a response. I mean, the cost for the group to meet is pretty insignificant, big picture. But you've got your 2 regular meetings a year, and then normally appeals are paid for by the appellate. But you can
What
call
was
it
the
a-
charge for zoning board variance request? 1,000 now?
No, 300.
300? Oh,
It's about that, yeah. Yeah.
pretty good.
Not sure exactly. So it's up there. You know, the other thing that I used to do when I was kind of running these is just to say that, Chrissy, I think you were advertising to people to go to the Planning Commission boot camp or whatever they call that now. There's, to my knowledge, there's not a ZBA boot camp. You just go to the Planning Commission boot camp because you're really interpreting the same stuff. What you're looking for is there a rational reason to change the decision of planning or council or an ordinance? And so if anybody does want to go to that, you know, I think you would get an opportunity here to do it.
I recommend that strongly from being on the ZBA for so many years, because a lot of times the planning commission planner comes up with an idea that we should change this to do this, and you guys need to be aware of that, because if it can be overturned, you're a quasi-motor court, you can do it. So it's some things takes more than one eye looking at it.
Well, I know Christie and the planning commission are kind of going through the zoning ordinance, so maybe that's something you could ask Christie at the, at our next meeting, which will be 6 months from now, or at an interim meeting, to maybe just give us a brief back on what are they finding, what are they considering changing. That might be worth some time too, Christie. I mean,
Yeah, we're waiting for all the information back from the planners right now, because we have submitted several chapters and we're waiting to see what they say can actually
okay,
be
yeah,
approved.
it'd be
So,
great to get an update
yeah,
from you.
by
I
that
mean,
time we should
if
have
you'd be willing
quite a
to
bit of
do
it,
that.
actually.
Yeah, so maybe that's, I'm gonna take a note that just says that that's something you may want to consider for the next
Yeah.
semi-annual meeting.
When's your meeting now? Is it the first Monday of the month now, or what? First Monday, okay. 7 o'clock, so?
Is that what we moved it to? Yeah, 7
7.
o'clock. So there's a couple of meetings here and there with holidays that have changed, and usually when we move them, they move to that following Wednesday.
Anything happening right now in planning? I haven't heard much.
No, just ordinance review.
Anything new with Fritz said, other phase back there? No?
No, haven't heard another word from him. No. That's been, what, at least a year, I think.
That's been over the
Yeah,
years.
it's been, maybe, since he's even come in, so.
Because that was when Mark Shaw got off with planning. And that's been more than a year.
Yeah, you're right.
Any more discussion? Any more ideas? Opinions? Comments? But that's good, anything that we could use, please feel free to, bring it up. Me, Ross, whoever.
Yeah, our meetings right now, with nothing really going on in the village, we have about the same audience at planning as we have at ZBA right now. So yeah, you're welcome to come and sit through a meeting.
Unless there's a reason to be there, people aren't gonna pop in, right?
Exactly, yep.
They have to take time to get off their phone.
So we have any citizen comments?
No, just good job. Not an easy one, but sometimes a little bit discouraging, but you can't make everybody happy.
This is
Yeah.
very true.
And here it's more interpretation, we're not here to,
Right.
entertain,
Hey, you guys, the examples that you brought were excellent as to what some of the main goals are of the ZBA, because it fits, the guy had, one thing that's key, ZBA handles interpretation and handles the decisions on the variances based on hardships, but it has to be a hardship that the owner or property resident did not create. I can't come to the ZBA and last year I built a huge addition on the back of my house and I've used up all of my square footage for my lot to building ratio, but I want to build a barn or a big garage or something, and I could squeeze a big one in and be 2 foot from my house, it'd work, and I really want to do it, so you should say it's okay, but I didn't have to build that big addition, I created that
You
hardship.
create your hardship, yeah.
So that's kind of key, and some of the easiest ways to let the homeowner know how they determine if they qualify to come to ZBA. What is the hardship? Did you create it? Is there an alternative? It's like Ross mentioned that, they could put the building on the other side, but they don't want to.
Correct.
Well, in the situation that you just described, let's say somebody bought the house and they were in that situation, they didn't create it, but I would think that they would still have to abide by the zoning ordinance.
They
Just
didn't,
because they
right.
didn't create it, doesn't matter
Right.
if it doesn't meet
They
the
didn't
code.
create it, but they could have investigated better when they bought it.
Right.
Yeah, should look ahead of before the bought.
I'm just gonna see if there's, can't remember if there's something in here about hardship. not.
I had that.
I think there was, I'm trying to find it. Which you're probably not gonna find it.
No, because we're looking for it on camera.
You look busy.
Huh?
You look busy.
Yeah, no, it's not awkward.
Tough job. Somebody's gotta do it.
I think it's in here somewhere, I'm not seeing it right off the top of my head. What I might,
Standards for use
um,
variances?
might have been in something else I was looking at and not this, but,
In the back, it'd be what, page 20, it kind of starts talking about it under standards for non-use and dismissal variances, just above unnecessary hardship is relevant only for use variances.
oh, okay, yeah.
And it goes on to tell you a little bit about it in that section.
Yes, yeah.
And then you've got standards for use variances, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Applicant should be required to demonstrate that either a practical difficulty or unnecessary hardship exists. And then they go on to talk about where practical difficulty is applied and unnecessary hardship is applied. And the issue with the wetlands and the pole barn is really falls under a practical difficulty. I mean, it wouldn't be prudent to build in a wetland because foundation wouldn't hold up any, you
It's
know.
illegal anyway to build in a wetland.
Yeah, yeah,
Mediation on it.
yeah. Just a side thought too, what I'll do is I'll make a copy of the ZBA appeal form and bring that in so everybody can take a look at that. And there was a cover page that kind of went over that. Again, we're not trying to dissuade anybody, but given the cost of an appeal, we wanted to make sure that they understood that there was a burden that they had. Don't just come in and say, well, this is a quick end around on the planning commission and or the zoning ordinance. You need to be able to explain why this is causing you difficulty or there's a significant hardship to this. So I'll bring a copy of that in and we can maybe review that at the next meeting. And Dennis, one thing we want to get to, if we're starting to consider wrapping up, is set the date for the next meeting. So
Okay, that's probably in October, isn't that?
I would think it would be. I'm kind of reaching for my phone and my calendar just to see. Christie may beat me to it.
What are we looking at, October? And we usually go Thursdays?
Yes, so it'd be kind of 6 months from today.
So the 20th would be the third week
My calendar.
of
Mhm.
October?
Yeah, 7 PM.
So that's next meeting, 20 October, 7 o'clock.
Does that work out good for everybody?
I'm only not entirely sure because my anniversary is the day before that.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
So it's possible we may
So it's not like-
might
it's not
end
like
up
bull
taking a
hunting,
trip
right?
out of town or something.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you have the discretion to change it. I think we maybe use that date right now, just to stick it on the wall. We have a time to at least plan on, but you would then be able to come back and say, because you guys will all get a poke in the side from me saying, hey, it's coming up, is 20 October still good? And you might say, well, I'm gonna be out of town or whatever, and then we'll adjust.
Okay.
You know.
But if we know now he's probably not
Sure.
gonna be around, what do you think about the 27th?
That's what yeah, just a week later.
because we kind of know what might happen. Everybody good with that?
Yep.
We have a motion to approve that? October 27th?
I don't know that you need a motion, but you just kind of set it now as the chair and say that's what you're shooting for and.
October 27th.
Okay.
Any other comments from board members? So if you do get a chance to read this, there's some interesting issues in here that might be giving a little bit of background. I'd like to do is get a couple of cases that our previous board has ruled on and pass them out, people to let us review those. Talking to Joe, might be able to get that from you. Kind of a good background case, how did you come up with that discussion? I know you're usually well prepared when you present the ZBA case
Yeah, mine
to
are
the
all
board.
in bound packets.
I can go through what I've got too and see if we've got some stuff and provide the case information to the group and just kind of talk through it.
Right.
All right, so I'll see if I can do that. Yes, training.
Any other comments for anybody? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn at 7:30.
Second?
And a second.
Okay.
Christie and.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Nay. Adjourn.